Okay, cool. We're recording. So, if you find it helpful to follow along, go for it. If you learn better by watching, obviously you're welcome to do that as well. So, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start off by making a box, and then I'm going to hollow it out. Okay. So, and I think I'll start off by just making one solid box and using a plane cut to split it, just so I can show you all how to do that skill as well, okay? So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a box, all right? And the only difference about yours is it's just gonna be a more elaborate shape, right? But then you're just gonna find a plane to put that hinge on. So I'm just gonna make mine, let's say like 100 millimeter by 100 by 100 for now. Just to keep it easy. Okay, and I'm going to change the material real quick, the appearance, just so I can see what I'm doing a little bit better. I usually will work with plastics. I don't like that one. Let's see. All right. I don't like that. Opaque, that's what I want. Okay, cool. So instead of drawing another box that, you know, has the same X and Y dimensions and just a different Z, the other thing that I can do just to show y'all this skill as well is I can actually use one of these planes to chop my form in half. So I'm going to use my move copy, and I'm just going to move this. So this red line is going to be the X plane, okay? I'm going to move this down a bit so that I have about 20 millimeters from the plane to the top. So that means my plane's going to be 20 millimeters, or sorry, my top's going to be 20 millimeters. So I'll hit return, and I'll go back home, okay? So as you can see, my box is sort of intersecting this plane, okay? And so what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to use that plane to chop this. So I am going to go to modify, and I'm going to go to split body. I'm going to select the body, then I'll select my splitting tool, and I'll select the tool that I want to work with. So I want to work with, unfortunately, I think I have to move this out of the way. So I'll just move this box a little bit out of the way. All right, cool. So let's try that again. Modify, split body, select the body, grab my splitting tool, select my splitting tool, and check it out. It'll sort of assign a splitting tool right where that plane is. So now when I click OK, now I'm going to have two bodies. All right, so now I have my top and I have my bottom. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so again, same thing. You could totally just draw two rectangles and that would be totally fine. But if you know, for y'all's, right, because it might be like an irregular shape and it might be really hard for you to sort of redraw the exact same top and like a little bit of a different bottom, right? The plane cut will be a really good way for you to find a place to chop it to create a top and a bottom. Okay? So what I'll do now is I'm just going to move, excuse me, I'm just going to move both of them just back up 80 millimeters, because I moved it, remember I moved it down 80 millimeters. All right, just so it's back, like just sitting flat on the plane, so I don't have to worry about it later. Okay, so the next thing that I like to do is I like to start to move things around from the axis that they're going to be moved around in the IRL space, so that I can just start to understand like how this object is going to interact together. Okay, so the way that I'm going to do that is I am going to grab my set orbit center. Okay, remember we went over this? And what I'm going to do is this is going to give me my orbit center, and I'm going to put it like right at the corner of this top shape. Okay, so that's going to be my orbit center now. So now when I move things around, it'll move around based on this, okay? So the first thing that I'll do is I'm going to rotate this top just so that I can understand exactly how things are going to be rotating, all right? Because you want to make sure that when you're rotating something, there's not a piece that gets in the way of it, right? Right? If you're trying to rotate something, but you have like a little piece sticking out here, it's not going to be able to flop all the way open, okay? So just to make sure that we understand like the basic mechanics, I'm just going to go to Move Copy, and I'll grab my body, all right? But what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that I select that corner, the corner that, or better yet, this whole line here. Okay, either one will totally work. So I'm going to select the corner of the top. All right. And then when I move it around, I'll actually be able to see like exactly how it's going to be rotating. Okay. So when I rotate it, it's going to be rotating from this axis. Okay. And it'll only be able to rotate 180 degrees because if I go any farther than that, right, it's going to start to intersect the other space. Okay, so what I can do, let's say you want it to rotate, but you want it to flop all the way open for some reason, okay? Or you want it to flop open farther than 180. What can I do to this top to make it do that? Yeah, absolutely. So I can go ahead and grab my, either the fillet or the chamfer, either one would work, and just pull this in a bit, okay? And so then when I rotate it, and I can hide this real quick just so I can see a little better. Okay. Then when I rotate this, I'll be able to go a little bit more. See that? Everybody following me? Okay, so that's just your test, especially when you get to the point where you actually have the joint. You don't want to print until you've just kind of moved things around and just make sure that they kind of stay where they're supposed to go, and that anytime you get to a point where you have one body that's sort of intersecting another body, just know that you can't do that in the IRL space, right? Like, because we're going to be working with solid matter and not just like math. Okay, so that's the first step, and I always like to do that. Like, I'll just literally be in the computer, like, okay, like, I'll just literally kind of watch this move and just to try to understand, like, the mechanics of it so that I can make a joint that will behave correctly with those really simple mechanics. Does that make sense to everyone? All right, so I'm going to cancel this. This is going to be our main shape. So now what I'll do is I'll actually start to make the joint, okay? You could use the chamfer to start off with, or it might be a better idea to just maybe start off flat. I think for this tutorial, I'll actually just start off here, and then I'll sort of change it as I go. So I know that I'm gonna need to make a joint that sits off the back here, right? So the first thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a cylinder, and I'm gonna place it in between these two shapes, okay? And before I do that, let's just take a look at the way that this is formulated. Just one more time. Okay? So if we take a look at this, notice how this kind of sits off just slightly. All right? So it's just a little bit off the back. It's not just totally connected to the back. It's just a little bit off. Okay? So we're going to kind of do a similar thing. And so we'll make that piece first, and then we'll make everything kind of fit together. So I'll go ahead and I will grab a cylinder. And before I do that, I'm just going to measure the size of this box because I don't remember what size it was. So I'll just go from here to here. All right, so 100 millimeters. I don't know why I couldn't remember that. So we'll do a cylinder. And I'm going to make it, let's make it like 6 millimeters. Let's make it a little wider. Let's make it like 10. And we'll make it 100 millimeters tall. Okay. And then I'm going to change the appearance of this just so I can see what I'm doing a little better. Okay, and I'm just gonna rotate this. Make sure it's on bodies. Okay. And I'm just gonna get it like mostly into position here. Okay, I'm actually gonna do that again. And the reason I'm gonna do that again is because I wanna make sure that it's at a right angle before I start to rotate it. So see how that's kind of wonky? It's not at the same like right angle as the X, Y, Z axis. So yeah, there we go. So that's much better. That looks right. So I'll rotate this again. So I'll go 90 here. And then I'll just drag it into place. So I'll go from the top. Okay. And it doesn't have to be perfect because I'm probably not going to end up using the whole thing anyways. I'm probably just going to only use little pieces of it. And we can always align it later. So I'll put this here. And I'm going to offset it from the box just a little bit, maybe even a little less than this, just so I can have that little bit of space. And I'm going to put it like right in between the two pieces. And I may need to adjust this later, but I think this is a really great place to start. Okay, so we know that we're going to need a hole in here, right? All right. Does anybody remember what size you should make your walls? Yeah, 3 millimeters. You might be able to get away with like 2 millimeters sometimes, but 3 is like sort of your general, anything you want to like be able to kind of hold weight, especially a hinge, should be at least 3 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to modify, and I'll use that shell command. Click here, and I'll put 3 millimeters in here. Okay. Okay, so that's going to give me, it should give me a hole that goes all the way through. Let's try that one more time. Try the same thing here. Ah. Okay, I don't know why this is mad at me. There's another way that we can do this, so we'll just hold off on this for just a minute, okay? So what we're gonna do now is let's go ahead and let's make the supports that are gonna hold this in place. So I think the first thing that we'll do is, I think we can just make a bar, like a little rectangle that kind of goes from the bottom of this shape to this shape. That's just gonna hold it in place. So I will go ahead and make that now. So I'll go ahead and grab my box. You can probably use a cylinder if you want to. And I know it's going to be 100 millimeters long. Oops. Okay. And I'm going to make it like 3 millimeters because I just want it to be a connection piece. And the width of it doesn't really matter so much because I'm going to put it inside the box anyways. Okay. So now what I'll do is I will move this friend up to where it's touching the start of my joint. Okay. And if you want, like the other one that we saw, you could put maybe a little bit of rotation on it if you want to be a fancy person. I encourage you to do so. We'll just move this over a little bit. Okay, cool. So we'll leave that there. Again, we can adjust all this later. And like I said, we're probably going to use like small parts of this, so the alignment doesn't really matter so much right now. Okay, so what we're going to need next is we're going to need to figure out how we're actually going to attach this part to what we have here, okay? And in order to do that, we're gonna need our hole, right? So we know we're gonna need a stick, right? We're using that stick approach. Y'all remember that, okay? So what we're gonna do first is I'm going to make that stick. That's gonna kind of be like the screw or the pin that you would put through the joint. And I'm gonna make that 3 millimeters, and I'm gonna make it for now. Oops, 3 millimeters. And for now, I'm going to make it 100 millimeters tall. Then I'm also going to create another one. And this one, I'm going to make 0.5 millimeters bigger, okay? Because I'm going to use this one as a hole. In general, a hole needs to be 1 millimeter bigger than whatever is going into it, okay? So 3 millimeters as a supporting piece, 1 millimeter for a hole, okay? The reason that I'm going to make this cylinder, I'm going to make it 0.5 millimeters bigger, is because it's going to expand 0.5 on all sides, meaning that it's going to be 1 millimeter bigger. Does that make sense to everybody? Right? Maybe? Okay. So also, when in doubt, if you're like, maybe that's cutting it too close, just do 1 millimeter bigger. Okay? Like, it doesn't have to be like perfect engineering, because the 3D print is like a little forgiving. Keep in mind, if you make something a little too big or a little too small, we have 3D pens and we have a lot of sandpaper, okay? So you can always kind of fix mistakes, truly. So just to simplify this a little bit, let's grab our cylinder again, and let's make it 4 millimeters by 100. Okay? And this one is what I'm going to use to punch the hole through this joint here, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rotate this. And again, you just want to make sure that the XYZ is, you know, at the same orientation of your plane, so that you don't get some kind of like wonky rotation, right? Because it's really easy to kind of misrotate something. So this here, and then I'll move it in place this way, just roughly, okay? And then for this one, I am going to use my alignment tools. Okay, so I'm going to go to modify, I'll go to align, and I will say from the center of this object to the center of this object. Okay, and that will align things perfectly for me. So I'll click OK. And then what I'm going to want to do, excuse me, is I'm going to come over here, modify, and I'll do combine. All right, and remember, combine has a bunch of different functions inside of it for you. We're going to use the whole command. What do I do if I want to keep my cutting tool? Yeah, absolutely. So instead of join, I'll do cut, select this, I'll select my tool body, and I'll just say keep tools. So I'll click OK. What just happened? Yeah. Did I click a button on this tablet? Oh my god. What is that? What like matrix situation am I in right now? Precision mode. I hate it. Oh my god. I'm like a grandma. No shade to grandmas. Oh my god. Okay. We made it. Stop. I'm not clicking anything. Please stop.
I think your wrist is hitting your mouth or like your forearm.
What the Oh my goodness. truly, y'all. I swear I'm like not touching anything. I mean, now I am. Okay. Jesus Christ. Okay. We made it. So I'm going to go ahead and just find this body that I just created, this like bonus one, and I'll just turn it off for now. Okay? So now check it out. I have that hole there, and I'm good to go. Okay? And we won't worry about this for right now because obviously I would want to like kind of punch the inside of this part out. But let's just wait to make sure that what we're doing is going to connect to everything correctly. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, so at this point, what I would suggest doing is just making a copy of this entire thing. Okay, so I'm going to just select all of this, and I'm going to do move copy. So we'll do create copy. And what this is going to allow me to do is it's going to allow me to have everything, all the pieces, but to work with the top, and then all the pieces, but to work with the bottom. Does that make sense to everyone? So I'm going to move this over here. Okay? And so this is going to allow me, this one I'll focus on the bottom, and this one I'll focus on the top. Okay? So what we want to do now is we want to just figure out how we're going to connect the top to this part, right? So, and we may end up like making another copy if we make changes to this, which is like all totally part of the process, right? So what I'm going to do is let's go ahead and let's rotate this one more time and let's just see how it behaves, okay? So I'm just going to grab the corner of this piece and let's just check out how it behaves. Whoops, I want a body. Thank you. Okay, so if I keep this where it is, I'm only going to be able to move it this much. Okay, so any suggestions on what I should do? Yeah, so you know, if I have this where it's at, and if I, you know, have my little joint that comes in here, the only way that I'm going to be able to work with this is it's only going to be able to move this much, right? So does anybody have any suggestions on what I could do? I can round the bottom. What else can I do? Yeah, I can round the top. I can maybe move this whole thing down. But let's take a look at our example over here and see how they're doing it. All right. So what is happening in this example here is that they actually have the joint on the top. See that? Okay, instead of the bottom, they actually have the joint at the top. And so it's rotating from the top, not the bottom. Does that make sense to everybody? So you can kind of put your joint wherever you want, all right? But if I'm going to try to do it in this iteration right now, I'm going to run into some major problems, right? So let's hit cancel. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these two pieces, I'm going to move them out, and I'm going to move them up, okay? So I'll grab both of these friends. So I'll do this one first so that I can get like the center point, and then this one. I'm going to move it out a little bit, and I'm going to move it up. Okay? So I'm going to put this actually right at the corner. All right? Doesn't have to be super perfect, but it should be as close as possible. Okay. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a connection point for the top. And I can always, I'm going to hide this stuff here. So I'll hide this whole one. And I can always make another copy, right? Okay, so now what I'll do is I'm going to grab this piece and I'm going to make a copy of it. And I'm going to have this piece connect here, okay? And then what I'll try to do is I'll try to rotate it and see if I can get it to work the way that I want it to work, okay? So I'll go ahead and do a move copy on this one. And I want to select this body in a way that allows me to, all right, so if I select the middle point, see how my direction arrows still say like the right angle XYZ, right? Because if I select it here, it's going to go at an angle. Okay, so just watch when you're moving things. It's a really important thing to keep in mind. So I'll do my create copy. I'm going to move this up. And then I'm going to rotate it. Okay. I'm going to move it over just a bit. Maybe down just a bit. Okay. All right, so what I'm going to do to this joint is I'm actually going to kind of break it up. So I'm going to cut slices out of it so that one slice will go to the top and two others outside slices will go to the bottom, okay? But before I do that, what I want to test is that everything's going to move the way that I want it to, all right? So at this point, I'll go ahead and I'll make another copy, and I'm going to put the copy right next to it, and I'm going to move it from this angle so that I can see how it's behaving exactly from this angle, okay? So I'm going to select everything here. Whoops. We'll do bodies. Select everything. And I'm just going to do my move copy. Okay. And so what I want to do is I want to move these two pieces around, okay? Actually, I want to move these three pieces around. So everything from the top and everything from the bottom. And I will hide the bottom on this one and this part. And I'll hide the top parts on this one. Okay? All right, so when I look at it from this side, it's going to look like it's together, right? Okay. So what I want is I want to make sure that this circle stays exactly where it is, right, when I rotate it. And then I want to test how far this box is going to be able to flap open, okay? So I'm actually going to rotate from the circle. So I'm going to flip around here, and I'm going to go to this side. I'll hide this friend too. I'm going to name this stick so that I know where it is when I need it. Okay, so I'll go from over here, zoom in a little bit, and now I'll use my move copy tool. So I'm going to make sure it's selecting the center of this, and then I'll just select these other pieces as well. So check it out. When I move this, I'll be able to open this all the way. Okay? Y'all following me? Does that make sense? So it's looking like I could actually move this whole thing in, right? Like I probably overcompensated for like that space that it needs to have. So from here, what I can do is I can grab all these pieces. So I'll select this one first. I'll do my move copy. I'll select this one first, just again, so I can get that appropriate like XYZ coordinate. All right. I'm just going to select all of these, and I'm going to move them in all the same, okay? So I'm just going to move them in maybe like 5 millimeters. That's a little too much. Okay. And then I think what I'll do is I'll move this one down a little bit. All right, and this isn't going to be the most elegant joint, but for this tutorial, I think it'll be just fine. I'll try not to be that much of a raging perfectionist. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now let's test that again and just make sure that that still gives us enough clearance, okay? So again, I'm going to select this friend first because that's the center point that I want to rotate it at, right? So I'm going to select the center point that I want to rotate it at. And then my other two pieces, and then I'll rotate this. Okay, so still looking pretty good. Other things that you can do, again, this is just a really quick tutorial to increase the stability of this, right? You can, if you're worried about like this being strong enough, you can press pull these pieces, right? Maybe a little bit. Just to make this like a little stronger if you wanted to. Just make that a little bit thicker. Okay, so those are all things, all like little subtle things that will increase the stability of your pieces. Okay, once you figure out like this is enough clearance, this will work, it'll open, the rotation's correct. Make sense to everybody? Okay, so how we're gonna finish this up, all right? The last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna just combine everything, okay? So I would highly recommend, I can't tell you how many times I've combined something and then I've been like, shit. So I would highly recommend, like, before you combine things, just make a copy of the whole thing. All right, so what I would highly recommend is just, you know, selecting at all the bodies that you're working with and just make a copy of everything and just put it like, just put it somewhere that you don't have to look at it, you know, just so it's there. So if you do need to go back or if you want to make a change, then you don't have to start from scratch. Okay, so what we'll do here on this one we're working with, I'm just going to combine everything. So I will go ahead and do my modify, combine, and I'm not going to keep the tools for this one because I made a copy just in case I need it. So I'm just going to go to join. I'm going to join all of these friends. Okay. And then I'm also going to join these friends here. Okay, so this should be one solid body. So I'm going to rename this one bottom. And make sure that this is one solid body, because sometimes you forget something, you know. Okay, and I'm going to name this one top. Okay, so the last thing I'm going to do, you know, sort of obviously, again, this is just a really quick tutorial. I'm assuming, you know, these are going to be shelled out, right? All right, so you can shell these out maybe before you do all this. Y'all will probably already have that done, right? Because you've already made your boxes. Y'all following me? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to align these two so that they sit perfectly on top of each other. And then we're just going to use some cutting tools to cut out the opposites so that they'll fit together perfectly. Okay? So let me show you what I mean by that. And then we'll be done with this tutorial. So I'm just going to do my align. I'm going to go from here to, oops. I'm going to go from here to here. Okay, and that should align them perfectly for me. Awesome. Okay, so now I have the top and the bottom, they're aligned. Obviously, there's a piece that's sort of like overlapping. All right, that's fine for now because what we're going to do is we're going to punch certain pieces out of the top and then punch other pieces out of the bottom. Okay, so for the top part, I only want like a little middle section. All right, so we're just going to make a joint that kind of sits in the center here. So I'm going to first hide the bottom, and just focus on this. So I'm going to make a box. All right. And I'm going to make it, let's say, I'm going to make it like 10 millimeters. Okay. So that joint is going to be 10 millimeters wide. Oops. We probably want to do like 40 height and then 10 millimeters wide. Let's do a little more than that. Let's do like, no, that's too much. 30? Yeah, okay. Okay, and then I'm gonna make it, so it's big enough to kind of fit from the edge here on the other side of my joint. Okay, so I'm gonna move this around here. Then I'll move it right to the edge. All right, zoom in. Okay, perfect. And then I'll swing around the back. I'm gonna put it to about the center. Okay, now I would obviously highly recommend you use your alignment tools. This looks pretty good. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here is I have a couple options, all right? I can punch a hole out of this one, or I can, yeah, we'll go ahead and punch a hole out of this one for now, all right? And then what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna use this one as a cutting tool for the bottom. So that will allow us to have the opposite parts, all right? So I'm gonna come here and I'm going to, again, just do my combine. So I'll select my target body and then I'll select my tool body. I'm gonna keep the tool because I wanna use this again in just a little bit. So I'll click OK. And I should have, oops. Well, shit. So pay more attention than I am and do cut. So I'm gonna select this one. Did I not go back far enough? Yes, okay, there we go. So try this one more time, make sure it's cut. It's a really easy mistake to make, but I do a lot. Okay, so we're gonna cut this out. I'm gonna keep the tool body because I kind of wanna make these joints on this side a bit smaller, okay? So I'm gonna keep these, cut that out, and then I'm gonna use this one more time to kind of make these joints a bit smaller, okay? Or, you know, we'll do that next. So I'm gonna head out, I'll hide this, and I'm gonna turn on that bottom, okay? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use this whole top as the cutting tool for my bottom. So I'll head over here, and this is where it gets a little magical. Y'all excited? Great, thank you for your enthusiasm. I appreciate y'all. Okay, so I'm gonna select the body that I wanna cut, which is the bottom, and I'll select the tool body, which is the top, and I'm gonna make sure that it's a cut, and I'm gonna make sure that I say keep tools because I don't wanna delete the top, okay? So check it out. Now I'm gonna be able to use this as the cutting tool. So I'll click OK. And so then I have the bottom. Let me show you the top. So here's my top. Let me rename this. Okay, so here's the rest of this. Okay, make sense? Now, oh, you know what? I forgot one little part here. I forgot to kind of punch out that middle part. You see that? And so there's a couple different ways that I can fix this. So see this like little weird part here? There's a couple different things I can do to kind of clean that up. but because I was whizzing through this, I sort of forgot that we had a little bit of an overlap with this one here. Y'all following me? Okay, so it punched out a little bit of this. There's a bunch of different ways to clean that up. I'm just gonna leave it for now, just for the sake of time. But y'all kind of understand like the overall like process of this, right? Because I have this one, which is the opposite of my top. See that? Okay, and then what you'll do is because this hole is 4 millimeters, you'll print that stick that is 3 millimeters and you'll put it through these here, and that's what will hold it together. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Okay, so one other thing, check it out. I just want to highlight one other thing. So I made a mistake, right? Like I just forgot to get rid of something that I knew was going to be a problem, which is actually not a problem because I copied it over here, right? So I can just go ahead and fix this. And the problem is that this piece, it extends outside this boundary, right? So it goes kind of inside and it extends outside. So I can just go ahead and make that change here. So I'll hide this. And maybe I'll just make this a bit smaller. Okay. Let me find that. All right, so that kind of takes care of the inside part. So now I just got to take care of that outside part, right? And so maybe I just rotate it a little bit. I'll just rotate it a little bit. Let me zoom around this other way. Okay, cool. So now I've moved it so that it totally is perfectly intersecting with this piece here, okay? So what I can do then, just to kind of shore this up and show you how you can just kind of fix your mistakes, which you will make, I'm gonna make another copy of this friend, again, so that when I make a mistake, I can go back and fix it. All right, so I'll make a copy of this. All right, I'll go ahead and combine all this. So I want join to have everything. Right, let's make sure I have everything. Okay, and then I can move this one over to where the top that I've created is. Right, let me turn the top back on. And I'll hide the bottom. And I'll try this one more time. So I can use my align tools, and then we'll be done with this, y'all. I'm tired of hearing myself talk too. Okay, so we'll go from this friend, and we'll head on over to this friend. So that aligns it perfectly. And then, again, we can use my top as the cutting tool. So I'll say I want to use this one, and then my top's the cutting tool. I'll say cut. I'll say keep the tools, so that when I cut it, there we go. Much better. Okay, so that's what the bottom's gonna look like. And then again, I still have like some little wonkiness because I was being sloppy with the tutorial, right? This little part here, those little pieces are really easy to fix. So if you have any like little overhangs, I'm happy to just show you how to fix those, okay? But that's just because I was being lazy and I didn't align shit for the tutorial, okay? But does that make sense? There's one more step that we have to take into account, right? So if you want something to fit into something, how much bigger does that thing need to be? 1 millimeter, okay? So what I have to do on these sides over here either on the bottom or the top, I have to make one of them 0.5 millimeters smaller on each side. So then that whole piece will be 1 millimeter smaller. Okay, so the way that I can do that is I'll just select this and I'll do my press pull. And I'm gonna head over here. Okay, and so I will say negative 0.5. Okay, so just gonna suck it in a 0.5 millimeter that way, and then I'll go on this side and I'll do the same thing. Okay, this is a really, really important part. Otherwise, your parts won't fit together. They'll be the exact same size and you won't be able to fit them inside of each other, okay? So I'll do press pull, and check it out. The computer is so smart and it remembers exactly what you just did, so it automatically puts that negative on there for you, okay? So then when I turn on the top again, you should have a tiny little gap there, okay? You should have that tiny little gap, and that gives you a little wiggle room to fit those two things inside. And then you'll also print, you'll either print that stick or you'll find something that's 3 millimeters, you know, a screw, whatever you want. You can print little caps to go on the edge of that stick, right? That have a hole that's 4 millimeters, and then you can just glue them on the side, okay? So there's a bunch of different things that you can do. Does that make sense to everybody? Are we confused about any of this? Okay, so this is the simplest one that you can do. There's more advanced ones. You can go ahead and play with the examples, but I think this one will get you pretty far. Any questions at all?